What is a business model? What is a revenue model? What is the difference between business and revenue model? This is the topic today in this video, and let's dive in. Business model is how you make money. Revenue model is how you charge the customer, which means which ways you get the money from the customer. And that's the 10 seconds brief summary. And if that's enough what you need to know, then goodbye. And for the rest of the guys, let's look a bit more in detail and start with the business model. So business model has many aspects and there's no clear definition. It's the classic saying that you know when you see it, but before that you cannot exactly define what it is. So I will do my best and my take on the matter, but basically what I just said already applies. It's how you make money. And if you think about it in a way that it actually bundles different aspects, important strategic decisions in your company. You could, from the outset, it could look like that two companies are doing the same thing. They're in the same field, they have the same type of customers, but yet they're not exactly the same. And the difference is that the business model is different. There's an old example, and I will use it just to give you an example how from the outset it looks the same, but in the inside, in the exact matter, things are completely different. Many years back, maybe a decade back, maybe even more, Google was offering directory services. So you could call and they will tell you the number, or you could say that, hey, what's the number for this and that business? Regular service which was provided for many, many years, decades, phone books, etc. And they offered it for completely free. Usually they were toll numbers, so you have to call in and you pay for something in order to get that information. But Google provided that for free. So they started to compete directly with these other services, where their business model was to provide that information, what the customers wanted, and charge for per minute or per call or whatever way. That was their revenue model. Well, Google didn't do that. Google said that, okay, we don't charge you anything. So you start to wonder, what is their business model? The revenue model clearly is not working because it doesn't provide them any money. How does it work? Well, the thing was, Google was not actually in the business of providing information to those who called. What they actually really were doing was they were interested of something completely different. And they didn't care at all about the revenues coming in from those calls. What they cared about was the content in that context. So people were calling in, and this is in the US, people were calling in from different states, they have different accents, they were pretty much from all the demographics imaginable. So they get a large sample of data. They got a large sample of different accents, people talking to them in a way which was relatively structured. And they used that to improve their other services. And that was the reason they were able to provide the service for free, because they made money somewhere else. But from the outset, it looked like that they are competing directly with the people who are providing that information service. So maybe if you're thinking about the differences between business model and revenue model, it's easier to look other businesses, analyze them, and then go back to your actual own business and start to think about it. Because the business model, it will include your mission statement, your purpose, what's your objective, who are our customers, how we actually present ourselves, what is our take on the value chain, where are we in the value chain, what is important for us, what is meaningful, what type of things we really care about, what type of problems we want to solve. And when you have that type of a clear understanding, and that may not be public, like in Google's case, they didn't tell what they were doing. They just provided the service and that was it. After a fact later on, it became obvious what they were doing and why they were doing it. But people who just needed the information, they didn't really care. So, similar way, it may look from the outset that two companies are competing with each other, they're doing exactly the same thing, but underneath it could be that the other company is doing completely something different, or they don't really care about the same things. So they're not actually competing in similar terms. Maybe they care something else. They just care more about the customer relationship than the actual services, what they're providing. They're just the means to enrich the customer relationship. So they have another angle, another perspective on the matter. Business model could also include things like, well, okay, let's jump into the revenue model now, because I started to think about things which may actually make things a bit muddy. So revenue model. A revenue model is then more concrete, and it says that how do you charge the customer? How do you actually get the money? Is it a subscription model? Is it one-time fee? Is it some kind of per metering basis, per hours, or per units, or what type of way? Is it a freemium model where you provide things for free and then you have some bonus extra services, and then that's how you make your money? So revenue model is more concrete, but it goes hand in hand with the business model. And together they define your business. And to really actually get to the understanding what a company does, you only need to go where the money is. So you start to look at, okay, how they charge, how they actually price themselves, and what type of things are the ones where they actually capturing the value, making their money. Because every company needs to somehow cover their costs and make a bit of profit as well. And that only happens when you're providing so much value that some of it, maybe a tiny bit of it, you take and keep yourself. So starting from the revenue model, looking at that, because that's usually obvious because they want to sell something, so they will tell that. You can see that, okay, this is the revenue model, this is the mechanism how they make their money. And from there, you can start go backwards and start to think about their business model. They have these type of products and services, offerings, solutions, and they're offering to these type of companies. And this is how they phrase themselves. This is how they market and brand themselves. This is what they say they care about. These are the things what they tell they're doing, and these are the things what they're promising. And that helps you to get to the business model. So you start to understand what is it, what they're doing. Some companies are really open about it, and there's no guesswork to be done, but others, it might be that it takes a long time to understand what they're really doing. A more recent example is actually Apple. And if you've been looking the latest, I don't even remember how far back it goes, because I don't have that knowledge. But AR, augmented reality, is coming, that's for sure, and that's been there for a long time already. But it's not exactly in our face yet. The products are still improving, and a lot needs to be done. There's been many years rumors for AR glasses coming out from Apple, but we haven't seen them yet. But if you start to look what's happening in the iPhone, there are almost in each and every new generation, new version, there are things, tiny blocks of services, hardware bits, improvements which are building that AR functionality over time. So they may look like features, and they are features indeed, of something which in standalone manner work, but they're actually building something bigger, better. And when the classes or whatever the service is what's coming out finally comes, that it all makes sense. Apple was building this thing gradually over time. And if you don't see that, if you don't consider that context, and you a competitor of Apple in iPhones or some of the other devices they providing, selling, then you may just look like, oh, they just have this feature, oh, now they have that feature. Why are they having these features all over the place? What's the big game here? And if you don't start to ask these questions, you just start to build these features because you're responding to what Apple is having. But for you, because you are not building the AR gadget, it doesn't make sense. In Apple's case, it makes sense. So business model is more complex issue. Business model goes exactly to the heart of the business. It goes exactly to the long-term planning. It goes to the purpose, mission, all those things which you build for long-term. Revenue model, it's the visible part of the business model. So in a way, you could say that revenue model is part of the business model. They're not the same. They have their purpose and place, but both are needed in order for the whole company to work. Because if your revenue model is arguing or is against in some aspect with your business model, something will break. Something will not work in the long run. So when you're building these things, it's important to look the whole entire perspective and also consider it from the competition perspective. Maybe there's someone who doesn't need the money, your revenue model, where you're getting your money, and they are willing to provide the service for free. And they're making money elsewhere, like in the Google example. And then you're in trouble in the long term, maybe not in the short term. So it's very important to look the revenue models, what's happening in the charging perspective, but to keep always in mind the big game, the business model. And you have to walk those in tandem over time in order to succeed and have a competitive advantage and sustainable advantage if that even exists, having those business jargon terms now thrown in. But I think that's enough of big words. Till next time.